Hi everybody, my name is Katie. As strange as it sounds, my family and I moved to live in Chernobyl, and I managed to get rich off of it. Yes, everybody tries to stay away from there, but not my family. Now I will tell you how it all happened. Let us know what you think in the comments. Ask questions, or maybe you live close to us. Who knows? Overall, we had a pretty quiet, steady life, but it wasn't enough for my father. He found a contract job. He was a geologist. He was promised a good salary, and for that reason, him and my mother decided to move to Chernobyl to live there. I resisted at first, because my friends were staying, but my arguments weren't strong enough for staying. So the day came, and we packed our bags and went to Chernobyl. If you've been living under a rock, it's a long, abandoned city in Ukraine. The whole world knows it because of the accidents at the nuclear power plant. When we got there, I saw exactly what I expected. It was depressing to look at. My parents regretted coming here at one point. You could see it on their faces. So, Katie, how do you like it here? It's picturesque, isn't it? If gray is picturesque to you, then yes. Come on, I know you don't have friends here, but you didn't have any in the last town either. Actually, I did have friends. Who? Princess Fiona from Shrek? Lena only had chickenpox once, and you've called her a green monster for the 3rd year in a row. She's only been greened using zinc once, and you're picking on her. We spent the first few days settling in. I didn't know what to do. My father was at work all day until late at night, and my mother was painting the apartment. I went for a walk. After walking around a few houses that looked alike, I knew I wasn't going to find any friends here. But after a few minutes, I found something else, something that helped change my life in the future. I wandered around the courtyards. It was getting dark, and suddenly, I heard a dog barking. I saw it when I saw it scowling at me. I knew I was finished. It's just going to tear me apart, raced through my head. It was practically foaming at the mouth. I took a slow step back and saw a stick under my feet, and it was coming towards me. And I very slowly took the stick in my hands. The dog didn't blink or take eyes off of my throat. Suddenly, my mom's voice, "Katie, time to go home." The dog jerked as I did. She wanted to rush towards Mom, and I shouted, "Mom, run!" She didn't immediately realize what was wrong. Suddenly, I whistled and threw the stick with the words "fetch," and the dog ran after it. We got a few seconds, during which time Mom got her bearings, opened some kind of door, and we ran in. The dog was breaking in like a maniac. It was beating its body against the iron door. Then we heard a bang! Shot. We decided to lay low and not open the door yet. After a couple of minutes, it became very quiet. I found a light and turned it on, and a cabinet opened in front of us, with shelves, wall-mounted racks, on which stood jars of various sizes. We got closer, and the contents of the jars shocked me. Mom felt sick and vomited, and I looked at them as if spellbound and couldn't look away. "Daughter, let's go home. It's really creepy and cold." Mom, did you see? Is it a kitten? Why does it have 2 heads? I don't know. I don't want to know, but it's horrible. Let's go. I didn't argue, but I remembered the place. We went outside and saw the dead dog being stuffed into a black bag by some men in uniform. They told us to be careful because these parts are full of mutated animals. For example, the dog that almost attacked us had no ears, and I didn't even notice out of fear. "Is all this the effects of radiation?" I asked, and the uniformed man nodded his head. There was a lab here somewhere. A local scientist used to collect kittens, dogs, pigs, in short, animals, and stored them in formalin. He planned to make a museum to talk about the mutation of living things, but he didn't make it in time. He died from the same radiation. The story was eerie, but I knew now that the museum belonged to no one, and that meant only one thing. Just the next day, I told my mom I was going to look for a shop for a couple of hours, when in fact, I armed myself with a camera and went back to the museum and took quality photos of each jar. Only then did I get to see the contents in such detail. One kitten had grown a 3rd eye on its cheek. A puppy had 2 tails. Some other cub had 6 paws. And each mutant was more interesting than the other. I was a little groggy too, but it was a kind of art, just not for the faint-hearted. When I got home, I started processing the photos. It turned out okay. So I started an Instagram page and a TikTok and started uploading photos. I was getting likes and comments at an amazing rate. I got a lot of followers. After a week, people started asking me to tell them more about the area and life of Chernobyl in general, to show them the forbidden places and find new mutants. I understood that this is a risk in its own way and that it takes a lot of time. Then, one of my subscribers wrote that he would pay me for it. Ding ding! At which point, an idea rang in my head. I wrote a post about being willing to work for a fee. I wasn't expecting it myself, but they really started throwing money at me. In one more week, some travel agencies offered me advertisement about tours. People got interested because nobody had shown mutants like me before. That's how I started to make money from it. Over time, there were clients who wanted to buy them from me. I decided to discuss this with my father. Dad, I need to organize the sale of mutants somehow. Can you help me? I'd be all for it, but I'm afraid your mother won't agree to us selling you. Dad, I'm serious. Well, seriously, I've been meaning to tell you for a long time that you're not our own daughter. What? What? Dad, what's that got to do with it? What's it got to do with selling? I don't do it. The last time I made a sale, it failed miserably. The goods were returned, and now I'm obliged to provide for her and call her my daughter. Dad, you're doing it again. People want to buy something from my museum. One price is $799. Daddy got serious right away. Send it where? That's how we started our business. It was bringing in quite a bit of money. Plus, my dad was helping me out too. He brought in finds almost every day. Within a couple of days, my personal geologist brought home a whole box of unusual animal remains. Sometimes they were fragments of bodies, like a human hand bone with 6 fingers, or human skulls with a slit for 2 noses. Sometimes they were small, childlike. One day, Dad came home, and from the doorstep, "Daughter, I met your Aunt Monica here. She's outside." "What? Where did she come from?" I asked, and Dad said to me, "Found her on the way home." My mother and I looked out the window and saw that there was a little creature lying there in a cart, but she had udders like a cow, and for some reason, instead of a nose, a feet like a pig. It was unusual, even for us. I asked why my father called her Aunt Monica, and he said, "They look the same to me." Mom immediately elbowed him to the side, and Dad giggled. My mother scolded me a lot for making sales, despite my income, but I was interested myself. I transformed that museum slightly, added lighting, and my dad repaired the dilapidated shelving, painted the walls black, and made a secure lock. It became my job with great income. I think that's why my dad was so keen. He managed to negotiate successfully, and we were sending a parcel of our finds. There were people who used mutants as decorations in their house, or even gave them to each other as gifts. Business went very well. But one day, I went to my museum and saw the door had been broken into. I ran inside, saw all my jars lying on the floor. Both the new and old finds were broken, as if they had just been trampled on. I couldn't believe this had happened, because so much effort had been put into it. I couldn't hold back my tears, screaming like a mad woman, with resentment and anger. My mom came running into my screams, and she even cried at the sight of the devastation. "Someone obviously doesn't want you to go on with your business," she said. And I thought about it too. Maybe I had hurt someone's feelings. Or maybe this was the work of people on a more serious level. I realized that maybe this was just a warning, but I didn't want to give up. So I took photos and videos of the pogrom scene, detailing and telling my subscribers that someone was prying into my work. A wave of supportive comments poured in for me. I was pleased that my subscribers were so worried about me. But that was not all. My father came home in the evening covered in bruises and cuts. He said he had been attacked. Who and how many he did not see. A gun had been put over his head. My father said he had found a note with one short word written on it. He realized it had something to do with our museum. I was about to pack, but Dad said he needed to find something at the pharmacy to treat the wounds. The 3 of us went there with Mom and Dad, and when we got home, we saw that our flat was on fire, and so was my museum. Someone had set it on fire. Apparently, it was in response to my videos of the pogrom. We felt that we really couldn't stay here, not to mention the belongings and equipment that burned along with the flat. But on the other hand, all the money I had earned was stored in my bank account at home. So when we returned home, I wasn't as worried. In the last year that we lived there, I managed to earn a lot of money, and my father made a lot of money too. Plus, we also got paid insurance for my father's assault, moral compensation, and some payments made by the company. So I want to appeal to those who did it. Hey, you hear me? I'll think of some other business for sure. And just so you know, we're not out of money, we're getting rich. Tell me guys, would you visit a museum like this? What would you like to see there in the first place? And what would you buy? If you liked the video, please leave a like and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe.